If you want an uncommon outcome, you've got to do an uncommon thing. The uncommon thing is to challenge it. We as humans are required to grow. You should be growing until you die. This notion where you have to accept the suffering given to you by a job just because most people are doing that, it's not a real thing. If that is true and it's been happening over time, then the next step is you have capacity to choose. This whole lie that we're telling ourselves that you have to make money the way that you are making it right now, even though it is costing you your health, your relationships, your wellness, your mental wellness, your spiritual wellness, your physical, your wellness, even though it is costing you, the idea that you have to continue to do it, that's not real. You have a choice. And not even that you have a choice, you have the capacity to make that choice. There is something for you to be doing. And in this life, if you are doing work right now that does not feel authentically aligned to who you are, and we talk about, a ton here, if it doesn't feel authentically aligned to who you are, then there's another work for you to be doing, and you do have the capacity to choose that. And today I want to talk about a few things to help you understand whether or not it is time for you to use your capacity to choose something different. Before I get into that, though, I want to talk about your capacity to choose it. The thing that you have to get very clear on is that you do not have to go out to create it. You just have to choose it. You have to allow it to be true. Your requirement here is that you allow what has already been chosen for you to come to you. So that's kind of the whole thing with authentically showing up in, your environment and the whole thing and the stuff, because your authenticity, being who you were created to be, doing, speaking, and showing up the way that you were created to be, attracts opportunity to you. That is how authenticity works. It is the beacon. It is your light. It is the way that you call things into you without actively really going out to seek them. And that doesn't mean you don't put effort into your life. Put effort into your life. But the most effort needs to go into you uncovering this person that you have been told you have to be. Whether it's from familial influence. I said in another episode, in my family, we didn't talk about going to college or not. It was just something you did. There was no discussion about whether or not this would be the best thing for you. It's just something that was going to happen. So that's an impression that somebody gave. So your work of uncovering your authenticity is to get underneath of that layer and see what could have been there had you had the opportunity to have a little bit more autonomous control over what happened at that next step in your life. That is the work of uncovering your authenticity. So it doesn't mean that you have to do a lot of I gotta read 25,000 books and I gotta do all this stuff. No, your authenticity is already in you. It's underneath the layers of you, underneath the impressions, underneath the influences, underneath the comparisons that you've been giving yourself. It's under there. It's under there. So all of that said, you do have the capacity to choose. It's under there, right? It's under there. So if you are nervous about making the choice, I really want to tell you, nervousness is not going away. The choice that you're going to make in the direction of your authenticity to get to the work of your doing, that is going to come with fear, and you have to have courage. You must be strong and very courageous, and that is the way to do it. Being afraid is not going to remove the calling, right? If you find yourself in an environment that is essentially kicking you out because it is requiring you to be some sort of suppressed version of yourself. I was rewatching a speech that I did at Pepsi a couple of years ago, and we were talking about this. We were talking about authenticity in the workplace and how it shows up and how you can tap into it and how to stay connected to it, that kind of thing. And I said something that I think is really funny. I literally told the folks there, this call to authenticity is not an excuse for poor behavior, though, right? Because we as humans are required to grow. You should be growing until you die. That is the point. Being committed to personal growth and development is part of the way that you uncover these layers that have covered your authenticity. It is growing yourself on purpose, right? And so when I say, growing yourself, think of your authenticity as a seed that's planted underneath all of these layers of dirt, because this is influence. This is the stuff that's been piled on top of you and the whole bit. And so the seed needs space to grow up from underneath the soil, right? So that is when you say I'm working on my personal growth, that is the image to have in your mind. Growing is not necessarily adding more, it's uncovering layers, if you can think about it that way. So if you're in a job where you have done some personal growth until you are starting to show up more authentically as yourself, you are starting to ask more questions and challenge yourself and look to, some depth and some different kinds of, outcomes for your life, If you are working in a job that is requiring you to do less of that, or to show up as less of the growth person that you have started to allow to come up from underneath the soil, it is time for you to tap into your capacity to choose. You get to choose. The way that you make money is a choice. There are far too many people that I've met that have, and I'm not suggesting that you do this, so don't, legal disclaimer, don't send me your bills. I don't want to hear about it. Make responsible choices. This is just wisdom and insight that I've gained over the course of the years. I am not telling you what to do. Legal disclaimer. Okay. All right, great. So there's far too many people that I've met over the course of the years that have been working as bartenders who used to be doctors because they hit a point of burnout and they couldn't do it anymore. Far too many people have changed careers from being consultants to YouTubers and because they couldn't do the consulting work anymore. Far too many people have made these choices for you to think that you are so special that you cannot choose. You can choose. And I know that I'm being very straight down the middle about that, but sometimes we forget how much capacity we have to choose. You have the capacity to choose your next step, to choose your path. Now, the path that you may choose, it might not be the final path. It might be the next right step for you. I met someone a long time ago who made a very lateral move. They decided instead of going for a promotion, they were going to step into a different organization at the same level for less pay, but it had greater growth potential. So it took them longer to make more money, right? But they made a move for their mental health and well-being, and it worked out for them, right? This is not necessarily something you should try to do on your own. I highly recommend a coach of some sort of life coach or some sort of group environment where you can make these choices in like an informed way and in a supportive environment. I encourage deeply therapy if you're going to make any sort of large life changes. And all of that are the encouragements. And also you have the capacity to choose. This notion where you have to accept the suffering given to you by a job just because most people are doing that, that's not a real thing. And so if you are here, I assume that you are ready to challenge the status quo and make a determination to do something different. There are a few kind of cautionary things that I want to launch out here. Because when I say things like you have the capacity to choose, yes, you do, 1000%. And also, don't choose it one day and decide and do it all in the same day, right? Why? Because you could be having a bad day. We don't make big life choices off of one bad day. That's not how we do that. We make big life choices off of patterns and like reflection, okay? If the job where you work is systemically and like habitually treating you poorly, it's time to then reflect and make a determination about whether or not this is the best thing for you. Most people are mistreated habitually and systemically, and they never think about it. Because it's like, oh, everybody hates their job. Everybody, doesn't live the life that they want. Everybody doesn't get to live their dreams. Only those few special people. What? It's like, I just want to challenge this mentality that says, oh, it's only for the few people that get to live this special life. Technically, that reverses it and says that if there are thousands, millions of people that can get out here and, build businesses and brands and get into alignment with the right company and career path, you're saying that you're so special that can't be true for you. Nope. What is true is that most people never stop to challenge what's happening around them until a life crisis happens. And then maybe you don't challenge. Most people just accept and just keep going. Now it's heavier because there's a challenge. So it's heavier to keep going, but you just keep going. And this is not a condemnation. It's like an illumination, right? Most people do this. And if you want an uncommon outcome, which, I highly recommend it for you, you deserve it. If you want an uncommon outcome, you've got to do an uncommon thing. The uncommon thing is to challenge it. Challenging everything is the uncommon thing. So if you are looking at your job where you work and you're like, man, I've been going along, they are habitually and systemically mistreating me. I am praying that this moment is your moment of challenge. That if you haven't thought about it before now, you are now looking at it. If that is true and it's been happening over time, Then the next step is an internal reflection. The internal reflection could sound something like this, Is there something that I can do about this today? Is there a report I can file? Is there a person I can go to? Is there a transfer I can get? Is there another office or space where I feel better suited? Is there something I can do about this today? Next part of the internal is there something I want to do about this today? Because those are two different things. When I was inside of my corporate job as assistant engineer, I thought that my challenge was where I was working from. I was driving down to Falls Church, Virginia every day from Ellicott City, Maryland. That's 49.5 miles there and back again, like Bilbo Baggins, okay? I was going there and back every day. And if I did not get on the road by 5 a.m., traffic, right? So 5 a.m. I'm in my car, physically dressed for work and in my car, go to work, be there by 6. Work the core hours, right? 9 to 3 are the core hours to get my full shift, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. If I didn't get out the door by 3 p.m., if you're from Maryland or DC, or maybe even Virginia, if you're from this area, then you know that 495 traffic, honey, anytime 301, 304. May as well stay till 7. Yeah? Okay, so I thought it was the commute. I'm like, I'm doing 49.5 miles back and forth every single day. Maybe it's just the commute. So I transfer offices to a different spot where the traffic pattern is just different. Drive is 30 minutes. Cut the drive in half and the potential for a 2.5 hour traffic-filled drive down to basically 0, because even with traffic, that drive would just be an hour, right? So I transferred offices thinking, okay, I can change what I think is crippling me. In my case, it turned out not to be the office change, right? But I wanted to make that change because at the time I was not thinking about quitting my job. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to, how can I make a choice right now in what I have to create a better situation for myself? And so that is what I'm saying to you as a reflection. If you feel mistreated, systematically undervalued, kind of whole thing, and you've been feeling like something's off for an extended period of time, here's just the encouragement to challenge it. And then the challenge is, has this been happening for a while? Yes. Check the box. Here are the questions. Is there something I can do about this today? Report it, call somebody, transfer out, make a shift in a lateral shift to a different department, to pursue some other portion of the company if I have that opportunity, have a very candid conversation with my supervisor about how I feel in my job. Those are all things you can tactically do. Now, second part of that is, do I want to? Do you want to do something about what you feel unsettled about? Now, for some people, the answer is no. If your answer is no, that's okay. That's okay. All of this is okay. And that's what I guess I'm saying. You have the capacity to choose. You don't have the requirement to choose, but you do have the capacity. And I guess in this kind of moment, the only thing I'm encouraging you to do is to activate your capacity for the choice. If your answer is no, I don't wish to do anything about it, cool, keep on going. Now, I would encourage you to ask yourself why you don't. I would encourage you to engage with a therapist or a life coach around why you don't want to do anything when you feel mistreated and misunderstood and misaligned and not in the best place and not over this long period of time. This is the time going along. Over this long period of time, I would encourage you to consider that out with somebody outside of yourself to see why. Why is my answer no? Why don't I want to do anything about this situation and scenario? Now, if your answer is yes, I want to do something about it, you might have a larger question. The what can I do about it then could in fact be leave. If it's been going on long enough and things have been happening consistently enough, then the answer to the what can I do about it is not just have a conversation, do the thing. All those things are still true. You could, but if you acknowledge, yes, I do want to do something about it, put in there also, I could leave. Let that be part of your option set. I could leave. I could go get a different job. I could go start that. I could do those things. Now, that's thing number one. We do not make these big life-changing decisions all in the same day. Somebody gets on our nerves, we get annoyed, we put in our 2-week notice, we leave the job. All in one day. We don't do that. We don't do that. That's not how this works, okay? So there's an evaluation that we must do before we can just go in and decide we're going to quit the job. Because for some people, the job is uncomfortable because your leader is healthy and healed. Listen, take this how you want to, yeah? For some people, your leader is healthy and healed, and there's something that needs to grow in you by looking at this healthy and healed leader. That's not everybody. But for some people, your leader is leading. And the leadership from a healthy and healed lens feels offensive, right? So that's why we have to consider these things, not just by ourselves and in a vacuum. Because listen, for some of us, because I am not trying to, say that I am exempt. There have definitely been seasons of my life where I did not respond well to leadership because I didn't really have any leadership skills of my own. So I didn't know that this was just somebody giving me a reasonable boundary or a reasonable critique or a reasonable whatever. And like, even in my case, clients coming back with like reasonable suggestions or complaints, I would be so in my feelings and offended. I would feel personally attacked. I needed to grow. See what I'm saying? It's not always the other person. And that is why we don't make decisions like in a one calendar day. We don't do that. We don't make big swapping decisions in one calendar day. And we also need to be bold enough to realize that some of this is about our growth because we grow until we die. Being committed to the process of personal growth is part of, life. And making good, aligned, and authentic choices as well. Some things come to ruffle you so that you will, in fact, take the step to grow. Because without it, you won't think anything is, wrong. You won't go look at it the same way that it's possible to just keep kind of going along the line without really even considering it until something happens. Sometimes people and spaces that come into your life to ruffle your feathers enough to make you look at a thing. And until you look at that thing, you cannot uncover that next layer to get to more of that authentic picture. And remember, when we are talking about getting to your authenticity, we're talking about the seed that's planted to grow up through the things, right? This is not just about packing more things on. This is about taking things off, but you have to grow through that so that your authenticity can shine more brightly. So really all this walks me up to my second kind of consideration when you're thinking about whether or not you need to leave the space that you're in. Don't do it just because somebody got on your nerves. I said that in the example about the one day thing, but like generally speaking, you have a coworker, a boss, and they're getting on your nerves. It's time to challenge that. Now, rude, disrespect, harassment, snide remarks, disrespectful, like really, truly like invasively disrespectful behavior, go straight to HR. Do not pass go, do not pass $200. Listen, go straight there and let that conversation happen. And even if you need to take a friend, even if you need to process it with your coach or your therapist first, you take that kind of stuff, you take it up a level. This is not something that you hold on your own. You take that right on up a level because you don't deserve to be mistreated anywhere, right? Now, those more extreme cases in a bucket, nobody's telling you to wait for, you hit an extreme case with somebody that you work with, somebody that's a boss, so you take that right to HR immediately. And then you decide if you want to stay because you don't have to, right? You do not have to. And nobody should be mistreating you in that way, right? So when we say somebody getting on your nerves, we don't mean one of those egregious situations and moments. What we mean is their leadership style is different. Their communication style is different. They're more energetic. They're generationally different. You have a 57-year-old working with a 27-year-old. There are probably some differences in the way everybody prefers to communicate. I personally, Shauna, I make everybody that works with me get on WhatsApp because I travel internationally and it's just easier. And TBF, to be fair, I really do enjoy sending videos and voice notes to communicate. Hi, I have ADHD. Okay, so sometimes voice notes and videos, that is how I communicate best. So I require everybody that works for me to get on WhatsApp. And by and large, people are willing to, acquiesce to that. I'm very candid about my reasoning why. I do not hide my ADHD ever. And I travel and everybody knows that. So people are kind of willing. And ultimately, it ends up working out great. We avoid a lot of meetings that way. Voice notes help a lot. We're able to really communicate, go back to things, re-listen to things, clarify things. It's grand. All of that said, if you are in a work environment with people that are differently generational, different communication styles, some have ADHD, some don't, like there's a lot of variables when you have humans getting together to work together. So if somebody's communication style is different than yours and you're like, ugh, that gets on my nerves, don't report them to HR. Just because they want a voice note instead of an email. You know what I mean? Like there is a little bit different. And so then if somebody is getting on your nerves, that is not enough of a reason to quit. This person gets on my nerves. My boss gets on my nerves. Now, distinction again, my boss is being disrespectful to me and talking to me a certain kind of way that makes me feel uncomfortable. They are eliciting that's HR. Okay? That's different. Their communication styles are different. How they show up in the room energetically is a little bit different than yours. That's not the reason to quit. It is, in fact, the reason to consider, though, especially if it's your boss. If your boss's communication style and requirement of you and the way they express it is like really not great for you, and there's nothing you can do, say, ask about, whatever, because that's just who they are as a person, then you do need to make some choices. Is there anything I can do? However, that is not the reason to quit. We don't up and quit the job because somebody said or did something one day, one time that made you bothered and you're like, I don't want to do this no more. All of that said, activate your capacity for choice. Your choice is your choice. This whole thing about quitting your job and staying in a culture and working for people, giving away your time, energy, your talent, and your calling to a place, spending 80% of your life working and doing all of that, ignoring your calling when there's something that you're meant to build in the world. All of that stuff is cool, but you have to choose every part of the path. And if you activate your capacity for the choice, you'll just activate more opportunities for you to have that are authentically aligned with who you were always intended to be and how you were always intended to work. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Uncultured Podcast. I've been your host, Shauna K. Henson, lifestyle design coach, goal strategist, and corporate culture consultant. If this is your first time here, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with somebody you know. If you're coming back for more, thanks so much for being here, and I hope that you'll tune in again. No matter what you're doing in your life, remember to make intentional choices. And wherever you are starting, remember that's not where you have to finish. Your life is yours alone, and your next dream is only one goal strategy away from getting exactly what you desire.